Welcome to the bold analysis, ladies and gentlemen. Politics is a game of perception and emotions. Today, UDA Laikipia Senator John Ichun'gwa is proposing the abolishment of the term limits, the 5-year, the 10-year term limits for president and the governors, just like the members of parliament and senators. This proposal is very outrageous, but again, it is not very new for political observers, because some time back there was also another MP who also proposed this while speaking in some rally, and we argued, of course political analysts argued, that it was just a mere statement, it was just a roadside declaration. I'm taking interest because the senator speaking is from Mount Kenya and is an insider around William Samoei Ruto. It is also not just a mere coincidence that this proposal is coming at a time that both Kenya Kwanza and Azimio la Umoja are tied in some national dialogue, to raise issues affecting the people of Kenya. And it is not a secret that this is a proposal that Kenya Kwanza is trying the waters, and you will not be shocked to realize that perhaps it will get to that dialogue. This proposal is not only meant for the population, but UDA is testing the waters if they can also take it to the dialogue. And of course, they want the reaction of the country. That is what I want to explain more in this podcast. Kindly make sure to subscribe to our channel. Yes, and I realize that those who are still reaching out and telling me they will be able to support the band's appeal by today. And of course, I'll be so grateful. The number is up there. This gentleman was beaten by the police in Nyalenda during the last mass action. So we've been so vocal about police brutality. He's one. So if you check the photos, he's the one. And the family was supporting the family with 50,000 to help in that. And of course, we are closing. We will send that money. They are taking the body tomorrow, or then they are planning the burial on Friday. So that money will be sent to the family. For those who had already said they will send, yes, of course, we were just trying to finalize, and then tomorrow we can send. Ladies and gentlemen, this matter has really taken my attention, because this is a proposal that UDA is now proposing. It is targeting the population, and remember, it's also some olive branch, it's some olive oil sent to the governors, especially the second term governors. So what do you think? Because there is one thing you need to understand, is that for the presidential term limit to be reviewed, even to be changed, and even the election date, leave alone the term limit, even the election date and the presidential term limit to be changed, we must get a referendum. It's not a matter that can be amended in parliament. So the masters of shortcuts that have always said that everything to be done will be done the parliamentary way must understand. And of course, I'm very sure that the senator is very conscious of the fact that whatever he is proposing is not something that, even if it is to be considered, it cannot be done in the corridors of parliament unless the people of Kenya go to the election, to a referendum. What am I saying? Kenya Kwanza is staring at an unstoppable constitutional moment. Unstoppable. Because the recommendations of what is going to be decided will at one point be anchored on law. And they have also proposed the office of Prime Cabinet Secretary to be embedded in the Constitution. It is very clear that the constitutional moment is coming. The only thing, the only difference is on how. Is it referendum? Is it parliamentary? And maybe if they win the discussion on probably what they are proposing, they are also conscious of the fact that it can get to a referendum. And Kenya Kwanza have realized that despite of criticism, there are also other issues that they also have that for them to be addressed, it must get to a referendum. Now, some of these are just junky proposals that are currently being brought on table with an intention that if this country is to head to a referendum, then Kenyans might be asked to decide. And I am myself a bit excited of this because I can tell you the presidential term limit is something that has been very emotive, especially in the African continent. And one of the things that even made that has made Uganda to trend is on this issue about term limit. African presidents that tend to alter with term limits without any other word to describe are actually dictatorial, because it has always been against the wish of the people. Secondly, UDA, this Laikipia senator could probably be a gun for hire. Probably be a gun for hire. Why am I saying? A gun for hire by William Ruto handlers that want to gauge his popularity. I know this is going to trend for the next few days, and Kenyans are going to have a candid discussion why this is coming now. But it's also the intelligence team will also be dispatched to hear what people are saying. If someone is talking about to remove term limit and we are just in the first term, and you know, I can tell you this, the discussion about term limit, you can only have it in your first term. When you try to think about talking, even, you know, imagining of altering term limit in your second term, it is something that the masses will clearly understand that the son of Sugoi wants to cling on power. I want to give you a good example. During the BPI discussion, one of the most contagious issues was the creation of, you know, expansion of the executive to include the office of Prime Minister. And Uhuru's opponents, or not Uhuru's opponents, William Ruto, who was leading the UDA camp, really ran a very successful smear campaign that Uhuru Kenyatta wanted to cling on power. And the whole creation of those offices, or rather the expansion of the executive, was for him to be accommodated. And that was supported by the likes of Atwoli, when the likes of Atwoli will get to public events and say that Uhuru is young to retire. So I am a bit intentional. This discussion is very intentional because you can only have it, and it can only receive a very partial treatment in your first term. If you dare talk about this in your second term, then as a sitting president, you crash out of transition politics, you create hate around your presidency, and people tend to see you differently. And you know what is the effect? The effect is very clear, that you stand the risk of losing popularity. So that could be one point, that is a gun for hire to test the popularity of the president. Then how would people support? Because when you have this discussion and you're talking to people and you're interviewing people, you will hear voters giving it different angles. That those who will feel that we should not talk about this term limit because of this. We should not talk about it because we even want him to leave now. And of course, it is something that if I can bet, I can tell you, I'm not a political risk analyst. I wish I take a course on it. God willing, probably next year. If Ruto takes the risk of taking this proposal to the bipartisan talks, then that will be his breakaway with a chunk of his supporters. Yes, a chunk of his supporters. That one I can bet. Number 3, this proposal is a bait to governors, because when it comes to this, there are those who, currently the devolution conference is going on. During the BBI, when Raila Odinga and the team met with the governors, when they were collecting views, when they were meeting with the governors, there is something that was very clear there. The governors proposed for the term limits of the governors, second-term governors, to be abolished. And if BBI would go through, then Oparanya would still be viable to vie in Mombasa. Same to Hassan Joho. The same way MPs can always vie more than 2 terms. So this is also something that is clearly targeting the governors. Like, are they going to support it? How is it going to work? But again, there is a very clear difference between the term limit of the president and that of governors. You can negotiate one for governors, but it's not it. Lastly, Ruto is setting a very lethal trap for Azimio la Umoja. And it is one of the baits that, according to me, is going to be used in the give and take strategy in the talks. In the talks, there is a lot of give and take in terms of, I'm giving you, and that is what people think, I'm putting the office of Prime Cabinet Secretary, I'm giving the opposition leader, let's work on the term limit, let's work on this, let's work on this. There's been a lot of give and take on this. Because someone would argue, I've just put a call to some political risk analyst who was telling me that within Azimio la Umoja ranks, if Raila Odinga is not going to vie, then in the imagination of Kenya Kwanza, of William Ruto, he would actually think that if Raila is giving up is throwing the towel on vying for the presidency again, then what will stop him from supporting it? What will stop Raila from supporting the term limit even partially if himself is not going to vie? Secondly, where does that put, does it mean that William Ruto can still vie in the 3rd term? If he vies in 2027, maybe he makes it, will still be able to vie in 2020, 2032. It is a discussion that is a trap to Azimio in terms of what they can give and take. And if you ask me, I wish we have 1-term presidency. Instead of making it 2 terms that someone has to vie 5 years, I would even support make it 7 years and ukimaliza wende. So that our politics is not, so that when someone takes power, you must not worship the cheerleaders around you. William Ruto is a captive of those around him because he needs 2nd term. So there are a lot of decisions that you will make, but then they're political leading because you still owe your political base something. So when someone gets presidency, knows that I'm going to serve 1 term and I will go. So when you get it, you campaign and mobilize, but when you get it, you serve and go. With that way, I think it will even be better, because sometimes when you have it, people seem to think it's their birthright and it's in their DNA, and make these transitions be like kumi yangu, kumi yako. I don't support it. I want to read your honest feedback on why this discussion is coming now. Thank you.
Mama inje. Mama. Iwacho ni nyanyo moro mane mar ariyo ni.
Mar ariyo mane otim for 3 days no. Koro no chako dwe Thursday, Thursday kaso Friday, ko Friday mano goye. Koro koro kako otero hospital to bedo in coma. Koro otieko 1 week kendi ko okete oxygen. Oketo
antie iko keto oxygen
ken coma oketo oxygen. Koro otieko 1 week agik Sunday. To.
Agik Sunday to.
Koro otieko mana 1 week. Ko chiemo to men. Koro kagi Sunday no teka kot.
Agoni mos makende wago mos maduong' ahinya. Nen wuodi maradi?
En chogo, en wuoda mara auchiel.
En wuodi mara auchiel. To notimo ang'o Kisumu?
Kisumu nyoto tiyo mane hotel.
Nyoto tiyo mane hotel, Mos ahinya wachne to koro owacho ni useyudo kaka inyalo ang'o wacho ni useyudo cha?
Kaka inyalo chul bill.
Mar hospital. Nitie nyaka mar hospital,
nitie nyaka mar hospital gi mar michari. Koro fodo rem dia gine beche ma winjo joga godala kaka dhi ome. Kaso gidhiang' be pok oyudi kech ng'eni joluo to nyaka welo ama boyo nyaka be chiem. Koro mago poni kanyo matindo go.
Koro nitie gima nowuok e tol maduong' lakini pod ok oromo.
Pod ok rom.
Okay, sawa watema ne wabende. To uketo budget mar sanduku pesa di?
Koro sanduku negiketo mar 30,000.
Negiketo mar 30,000, Ok, nodwa nugole ticha ticha?
Igole Thursday. Ike Friday.
Aya, sawa. Tarik 17 Koro